I see the court officer holding this large rifle. I'm like, whoa, did this escalate between the 5 minutes I went upstairs and came back down?
Welcome to the Rental Property Owner and Real Estate Investor Podcast, brought to you by the Rental Property Owner Association, providing benefits and services to real estate investors and rental property owners for over 48 years. With your host, Brian Hamrick from Hamrick Investment Group.
Hello and welcome to episode 71. As the host of this podcast, I'm lucky to have the opportunity to talk to all types of investors and landlords with many different levels of experience. And one of my greatest pleasures is to talk with those who are just starting out and at the very beginning of building their portfolio. One of the best ways, in my opinion, to get started as a real estate investor is to buy a duplex or a multifamily, live in one of the units, and let the income from the other units pay your expenses and put cash flow in your pocket. This is commonly called owner-occupied or house hacking. Well, Cameron and Emily Walker have done just that after starting from scratch less than a year ago. Today, they're going to share their experiences and frustrations in beginning their investment portfolio and doing their first house hack. Cameron, Emily, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Cameron, first, I know you work for Compass, and Mark Troy has been a guest on our show before.
Well, my job as a maintenance coordinator is complicatedly simple. Let's say that I'm kind of the first stop and end stop of all maintenance-related items. A resident calls in an issue, leaky sink. It gets to me. I then create the work order, go into the dashboard, kind of see. We have a dashboard that you can see our the tech's workloads, how many hours they have, what zones of the city they're in, and then I kind of assign it according to that, who's more efficient for them to get to a spot, who's going to get to it quicker.
Now, is all of this set up so that they can just look at their phones and see what they need to do? All our technicians are provided with iPads, and then we do a lot of our communication through email and the software that we use, a couple of softwares that we use where they can get resident information, numbers. It's also included in the work order. And Emily, tell us a little bit about yourself. Now, you're in a completely different profession.
Yeah, I'm a validation tech for Gerber Baby Food, and my job is to write, design, and execute experiments that show that the food that we're producing is safe. Our plant runs 24/7, so if a line's down and I need to do some work, then I'm coming in at all hours and doing the documentation and meetings and all that on top of it.
Let's talk about the process of where you were a year ago, engaged to be married, I'd imagine, figuring out what your living situation was going to be. How did you decide to get into house hacking? It
really began when I went out to lunch with the owners of Compass, Mark Troy and John Brophy, and to talk about something completely separate, an idea I had, doing some classes or teaching things for like residents and stuff like that. And then at the end of the lunch, I think John said to me, he's like, where are you going to live? You know, we talked about like marriage and what next steps or whatever. And then he brought this idea of like owner occupying, you know, we should do something like this. And then again, I was like, that's interesting. I never really thought about that, buying a house. I guess for me, that was like, that's, you know, you don't buy a house when you're 23 years old at the time. Like, that's silly. Like, that's not something like...
What had you guys been thinking up to that point? Like, you would rent an apartment or a house?
Rent an apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were looking at, like, the random apartments, you know, like 700 something. That's what we were that's probably the price we were looking at, spending probably like 700 something for an apartment, although the market's different probably now than it even was in that moment.
So that's good information. So your budget for a rental would be $700 to $800. You know, given the increases in rent within the past year, you'd probably be in that $700-800 range. But then you were introduced to the idea of owner occupied, as people like to say now, house hacking.
House hacking.
Tell us, just that thought, that switch or that shift in your thought process, how that came about.
So John, the owner of Compass, he loves Excel spreadsheets, and he invited us to look at numbers and look at the advantages of doing house hacking. And so he had a spreadsheet that he showed us, and I'm a numbers person, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is so cool.
But what jumped out at you? What did you see in his spreadsheet that really convinced you?
I guess you could see, what you're putting in and what you're getting out. That kind of the bottom line. You're looking at, your mortgage and budgeting for maintenance costs, all that stuff. But that at the end of the day, you're coming out ahead and a lot better than renting an apartment.
Yeah, like he was using, which is the first failure in our attempt to get a place, but he was using a 4-unit that we knew was going for sale, and then he had made up numbers, but rent, vacant, fill that, and then maintenance, mortgage, and then you look at it, and which like I said, we wanted a 4-family. You started like you telling me, which jumped out at me less than the spreadsheet. Like she said, she's more into that. That's like, you telling me I could live in this house, I could not even pay anything to it, and like it's paying me like $500 like a month or whatever. Like that it's like, why would you ever rent anything like ever? That doesn't really make any sense. If you like, it's like, if you could do this, if you could financially get approved and have savings enough to be prepared to go into this sort of market, then it makes a lot more sense to go down that route. So once he planted that seed in our head, that was
all we wanted to do.
Yeah. I mean, once you see that, so Emily, you saw the numbers, and the numbers convinced you. Cameron, you just saw the logic to it, which is, here we have the situation where instead of paying rent, $700-800 a month, it's going to just go to the landlord, and we'll never see that money again. Yep. We can buy a 4-unit, which you were looking at a specific one at that time, and it sounds like John was showing you the realistic budget that you would have. Yeah. Both the rent income that you could get from the other 3 units, what your maintenance costs might be, taxes, insurance, all that kind of stuff, and you realized, well, not only will the rent income from the other units cover our mortgage payment and help pay down the principal on our mortgage payment, but we'll also have an additional $500 a month in cash flow that you just put in your pocket and spend somewhere else. That seemed to be the logic that you responded to.
Yeah, and those were, at least John and myself, those are very conservative numbers too. So it was like, I was like, wow, like this is something, like, I was like, this is a great idea. Like everybody should do this. So it sounds like up until this point, you had never even considered this. No one had ever brought it up with you before.
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
Even with you working at Compass, like that, you work for
I worked there for a year, and
that
I never
wasn't
thought
even on our radar. We're like, oh, maybe Compass can help us rent something. Us.
Why is that? Why is that? So you're actually working at a property management company. You're a numbers person, Emily, and I mean, why is it that it never occurred to you that your logical conclusion in the beginning was, let's just rent and pay rent?
I mean, we're young, so I think we were just thinking we're too young, to own a house. We're too young to be landlords. That's something that you do when you're older and have money to do that. So I think that's why it wasn't on our radar, because we were just thinking we're too young.
I don't think that being a landlord, well, even we're house hackers. No one wants to be called a landlord. I don't think that idea was even like, no, it was not on our radar. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know why I never thought that. Why wouldn't you just get a rental? I guess maybe it just seems like it's too much of a financial hurdle, maybe to like well-established individuals purchase homes. At least that's what maybe what society
like
makes
you have to have a certain amount of money.
Yeah, you got to
even be able to consider doing something like this.
Be an engineer or be a doctor or like something more established before you start thinking putting money into a house or even an investment property. That's next level.
So that's why I'm excited to be talking to both of you today, because you're at the very beginning. I mean, you're both young. You're newlyweds. You're not doctors or lawyers who have built up some sort of nest egg that you can put down as a deposit on a property, but yet you've done it. You've done it. Yeah. So that's what we're going to talk about, is how you got to that point where you were able to do it. Mm-hmm. And you started off, let's go down the road with the 4-unit here. You started off looking at a 4-unit. Where was this 4-unit?
West side of Grand Rapids.
West side on Walker. I can't remember the exact address, but it was on Walker.
Okay, and what happened? So you were convinced on the spreadsheet. You were convinced by the logic. Take me through the rest of the process with this 4-unit.
So
the market happened.
Yeah, the market happened. We started looking in March or April.
Yeah, earlier
spring,
earlier 2016. Yeah. We never experienced the rental or house market, which I don't know I don't think it's a little slower right now, but was basically you could list a house for 100, you get offers for 145, and then be like, I'm going to accept that offer for 150 I got. It was just like, it was kind of crazy. So what happened with this 4-unit is that we put in an offer for it that we thought was fair all the way around the board. And then the other side,
we were outbid in straight cash by like $30,000 more than what we had offered.
Yeah, they found out that there was somebody. I think Grand Rapids is like a hot market. I think we're on all the magazines for some. So like some investors, some in California, someone told him about the place, and then he was willing to put like $200,000 down on it. And it's like, that's a lot more than what I can get here. Like, I'm sorry, we respect you. This is fine, but that's 200,000 versus something else. So
cash is king. Huh?
Yeah. So that's how that works.
So what were they? The 4-unit. What were they asking for it to begin with?
It wasn't on the market yet. Was it?
So this was an off market. It hadn't even hit the market.
Hadn't hit the market yet, and we picked both sides picked a value that. Well, we went with Lisa. And we talked to her, and we came up.
Who's Lisa? So
Lisa's our realtor. Lisa
Alburn.
Lisa Alburn.
Compass realtor.
Okay. And say her full name. So if anyone's listening.
Alburn.
Lisa Alburn. Okay, from
she was
Compass
great.
Realty.
She was very great. She was very helpful from start to beginning, start to finish with us. Like, we were new to the process. She was very willing to walk us through the steps of what we went through and what we're going to go through and decisions that we made. So we came up with her expertise, 20-some years or whatever it is. I remember her telling me 15 or 20 years. And we came up with value we thought was fair, really fair. And so we offered it, and it was going, and then...
So tell me, what was that value? What did you offer for this 4-unit?
$170.
Yeah.
And where it was located... And I am not experienced realtor. I don't know property values, so my opinion on this means pretty much nothing. But I thought where it was located, the spot, I thought that was a pretty fair offer. And
it is your money, so that makes you an expert on what your money is worth.
And so, and then when they came back with like 200, I was just like, you're gonna have to go to like the next county before you find a house. I mean, that's not true. You can come to like East Grand Rapids, but you can go pretty far away from that location of that 4-unit to find a house that's worth $200,000. And my non-knowing of realty or anything is like, you don't necessarily want to buy the most expensive house on the block, and you want to buy like the worst house in the best neighborhood sort of deal. And so I was like, I didn't really like the idea of overpaying for a house that it just didn't work out.
Yeah, you weren't comfortable with that.
Yeah, I was like, that's too much. It's not worth that.
And it sounds like you had a cash buyer from California who said, I'll pay $200 cash for it. Mm-hmm. $200 to a California investor it's nothing. You can't even buy.
I'll get 6 of these. Like, it doesn't.
You can't even buy a studio apartment in California for $200,000.
No.
So buying a 4-unit in Grand Rapids, I'm sure seems like a great deal to an out-of-state buyer. Mm-hmm. So tell me about the crushing disappointment of losing out on that one.
It was very disappointing, and there were many more disappointments to come.
That one really, that really sucked. I think we both were a little, I don't know, rattled.
Yeah, like we're like, oh, you really want to do this? Is this gonna work out?
Yeah,
This is why people rent.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the emotional
Yeah.
ups and downs
Yeah.
of going through this process.
That, I was you bring this back. That was hard. And then what made it harder is that the next place wasn't as good, or the next place the numbers weren't as good.
Yeah.
And I was more in it for the numbers personally too. And so it's like, the 4 units out there right now are not as well maintained. Another factor into our decision was maintenance. I'm not handy. It's not my background.
Despite being a maintenance coordinator.
I've learned
You're
a lot.
handy at coordination.
I've
the
learned a
actual
lot
doing of
actually
it.
in doing this. So again, my job at Compass has prepared me in a way to do more of these things. But there was the best thing about the Walker place was necessarily the price, was that we knew how well it was taken care of, and we didn't want it was our first place, and the big worry for us was buying a huge dud and then needing to spend $20,000 fixing it up to get it livable or maintainable, or you're going to buy it and then those 2 furnaces in the basement were going to explode next week. And
So the first 4 unit was in good shape.
it was in
You
good
didn't
shape.
have
It
to
just
bring
needs
much
some
money to fix it
exterior
up.
painting was probably the
Yeah,
biggest
some
issue, maybe the roof in a couple years. But the bones of the was great. So I guess what added to the beginning of this process that was so hard, at least for me, you can speak on your own behalf, was that every next duplex to the next 4 unit wasn't as good, and the numbers didn't look as good, and that just was we're never gonna find that place. So
Yeah.
we really missed out. Should we have spent 200 grand on that place, or
Right.
try to at least match it or counter it or something? Did we miss out on the one that was for us? Even if we were at 200,000, we were still, instead of making that $500 a month, we were still making $300 a month. So you
So
start
it still would have covered all
it
your
still would have
expenses
covered
Yeah.
and
everything.
giving you 300 cash
So
flow.
then, I'm thinking to myself, and again, you can talk for yourself, I'm thinking, did I let, my own personal, I don't want to say ego, or, that's just not worth it. I can't do that with, our money, get in the way of, getting that goal or dream. I was well, we regret that decision. So that was on my mind, at least, as we were going through the process of seeing other places.
Yeah.
So Emily, what kept you going? What made you stay in the game and keep looking rather than just give up and rent?
I think the idea that the numbers would still work in our favor, even if, they weren't as good. I mean, the market was pretty hot that summer.
And this was summer of 2016.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I can't tell you how many places we went to that they would go on the market. We would ask for a showing and go to the showing the next day, and it would already be sold.
Wow.
I mean, there had to be at least
We told-
4, 5 places.
Yeah, we went to open houses on our own. We'd walk in and the realtor would be like, well, we already accepted an offer. You can still look around.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Oh, that's so sad.
But yeah, I think it was really the idea that this would still work, that, this would still be beneficial for us, that kept us going.
Yeah, even if the numbers said we were paying $300 out of our pocket a month, that's still better than $700, and it's $300 towards you're building your wealth or your equity in your home and all that.
Yeah. So you had actually come around to the point where, well, maybe we won't make cash flow,
Right.
but we won't be paying as much as we would if we were renting.
Right.
That's kind of where we had to move to in order to purchase
Right.
a home, I think.
How long did this process last, and when did you come across the duplex that you eventually ended up buying?
Came across it in May.
It was before that, I think, because we had to close the end of May.
Yeah.
But before June 1st. How we came about the house, actually, Lisa. So she kind of had our price range, and then it would like forward us emails. And so like we'd get emails, and then I'd be like, hey, Em, what about this one? Do we want to see that one? Hey, Em,
run the numbers.
Run the numbers. Like, is that something we want? No, I don't want that one. Or like, this one's decent. Like, or this one says, how we came across to our house was it came to me in an email. I don't know if Lisa,
price drop.
It had price dropped into our range.
25,000.
Oh, so they'd overpriced it.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
They thought the market was so hot, they just priced it really high.
Right.
But then no one was bidding on that.
Didn't sound like
particular
anyone.
property.
They didn't get any hits on it. And then so it came across my thing. I'm like, it was like, this was recently painted, because the issues we were finding is like, this place needs to be painted. The roof's bad, the structure's bad, the furnace is super old. Or so this one came across. It was like, these furnaces were new water heaters and furnace for one of the units in 2014. The roof was a year or two old. The exterior paint was a year or two old. Again, I think I was getting a little down on this. Let's just get one. I'm tired of this. And then the last place that I thought was like, it's hitting all our checklists. It's not that bad. All these things was checked. They were like, I don't think that's the one. So I was like, I'm getting a little down. But I'm like, this one's hitting all the checklists. Like, this is the one we're going to go look at. I want to go see this one. So
we actually offered for it without looking at it.
Yeah.
So you jumped right in. And
because I was with Lisa doing 5 showings. We did like 5 showings in other houses that day, and another house down on Pleasant. And then I was like, "Hey, Lisa, I saw this in the email. Can we go look at this house down the street? It's getting priced at 180. No, it was like 180. It was at 180 at that point. I think. I was like, can we go look at it? Like, go drive around outside. So we went and drove around. I'm like, it's looking good from the outside. I'm like, let's put an offer in on it before we see it.
Yeah, because the market was so hot, we felt like we just had to offer, and that we would have the contingency that if there was something, majorly wrong, structurally or whatever during our inspection, we could back out.
Right, but you locked it up. You said, let's lock it up, and then decide if we're really going to take it down.
Yeah. I think we offered 165, and they came back with 170, and we accepted 170.
170, and they wouldn't show it to anybody else.
Yeah, that was the contingency.
Okay.
That was the play.
So this
by the other realtor.
So this had been on the market. It had been overpriced. So they probably had it at 200.
Yeah, they put it on at 200
to 175. You guys saw that and just said, let's lock it up.
Yeah.
Did you have pre-approval for a loan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as we thought about doing this, we went and got pre-approved.
Well, Mark, back it up some steps. Mark said, if you're going to do this, here's what you need to do. And then he said you need to get pre-approved, and you need to have 4 to 6 months of like savings for bad times, our estimated vacancies, estimated mortgage payments, all these things. He said, if you can get pre-approved and you have those things locked up, then, this is something you can pursue.
So when you say 4 to 5 months of savings, you mean whatever the mortgage would be, you'd have to have 4 to 5 times that amount? Or is there more that you're adding into the
mortgage,
savings?
The maintenance, water bill, taxes, insurance, all that combined.
That if it were vacant for 4 to 5
if it sat
months,
vacant and everything went wrong, no income was coming in, and how long would you last?
So how much? Tell me how much money that would be then, for a duplex in Grand Rapids to have 4 to 5 months of savings. Let's use this opportunity to talk numbers. Then you bought the house for 170.
Yeah.
And the pre-approval you got, it was you were able to get a loan for 5% down.
Yeah.
So that's really good. So you're talking $7,000 or $8,000.
It's about $7,000 or $8,000.
Yeah.
I remember. Yep.
Yeah.
So for $7,000 or $8,000, that's your down payment. That's not your 4 or 5 month savings. There.
Right.
What is your mortgage amount every month now?
Our mortgage is $748.
So your
mortgage and taxes is like $1,300.
Yeah, our mortgage plus
taxes,
insurance, and then we also have to pay the PMI because we only have 5% down.
Just the mortgage, principal and interest, is $748.
Yeah.
And your PMI is how much?
137.
It's like
137. Taxes, insurance.
The rest of it brings us up to 1,200 and some change.
So for 1,200, you're covering your PMI and your PITI, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance.
Yeah.
4 to 5 months of that is going to be, probably just over $5,000.
Yeah.
And that is about the number, which you talked about earlier, talked about our registry. That is about the number that I wanted to get. That's why we put it on there. That's the number that I wanted to get in our house account started savings.
Yeah.
Right. So your wedding registry.
Yeah.
That's where that discussion came from.
So you guys were getting married. You were engaged. You had a wedding set, and you said instead of giving us gifts.
I said, let's be honest.
Was there some disagreement about that?
Yes.
So
I was like, well, we might have money for the house, but we may not have dishes to cook on.
You can always buy paper plates. Right?
That was interesting.
Yeah.
Discussions.
So Cameron, you were the sensible one who said let's have people give us gift money to apply to a down payment on our home.
I would rather get down payment money or savings money versus having 10 different sets of bowls that all are like other recently married people. Like, we just got too many things. We don't need 4 sets of bowls. It's just us 2 at this moment. And I'm like, that makes sense. Emily, please understand what I'm saying. I don't want you to not get gifts or anything. I'm just saying we need like 1 set of bowls. We don't need 6, and then we can use that for like savings for the house. Like, I think this makes sense, but there was a little resistance.
Sure. So Emily, what was your thought process? You wanted the gifts.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I wanted to, make a nice home and, but
with chairs and furniture.
With chairs and furniture and stuff. So I think we opted to have a fairly small registry, compared to like the number of guests we had. I think we had about 150 guests, and I think Bed Bath & Beyond said, you're only registered for about 18% of the gifts for the number of people you say that are going to come.
So Bed Bath & Beyond said you need to register for more gifts because you're going to sell out with what you. So how much would you say from your wedding the money that was given to you was able to go towards your down payment?
Probably made what? Was it 65?
Yeah.
6,500
from the wedding.
Yeah.
So I was surprised.
Yeah.
I thought we were gonna get like $3,000. I'm like, oh, it's gonna be great. And then we're like, everyone who gave us gifts, we thank you so much. But it was just like we were going through the checks before. I think we did it after we got back from the honeymoon, and we're like going through it, and I'm like, oh, whoa, wow. And then it turned into this a lot larger amount. Like I said, about 6,500 or something like that I didn't think was coming. So
yeah.
Well, I think that's great, and it's a great example of kind of being creative and figuring out ways to raise money for your first house.
Yeah.
For your first house hack.
Yeah.
I mean, here you guys were getting married, and you said, well, let's just, instead of getting gifts, or let's get some gifts, but let's also give people the opportunity, our guests, to apply their gift money to our down payment.
Yeah. We definitely
in our future, and our trying to set us off in the right direction.
Was that one of your first arguments as a newlywed couple? The choice between registering for gifts and raising money for the down payment?
As an engaged couple, that was probably one of the precursor to marriage discussions was the gifts versus registry money. I'm kind of logic and reason would make sense. She's the scientist with her numbers and spreadsheets, but then, and I love you, she's like, has this the thing, like I said, I want bowls. I'm like, do you really need like $500 bowls, or would you rather have $100 bowls, and then like 400 of that will go into the house?
I like to make things nice and pretty.
I can live off minimal things.
It's funny, when my wife and I got married, I said, I don't want fancy plates or bowls because I will break them when I'm washing them in the sink. I know that I'm clumsy like that, and I'd hate to get something really nice that I'm just going to destroy accidentally.
I support that.
Sorry we're ganging up on you here.
It's okay.
But that was a good kind of primer for being married and dealing with financial decisions.
Yeah.
And in house hacking, in some ways, you have made a business decision because you have what really is essentially a business.
Yeah.
You're charging someone money to live in the other unit.
Yeah.
So tell me how that's worked out with the two of you being able to make these decisions together as to how to either use that income or spend money to improve your property.
Well, I guess when we were looking for houses, we were looking for something that didn't need a lot of work. So like Cam said, it was a new roof, new furnace, new hot water heaters, like new flooring.
We want to be able to build up a more of a, despite what we got from the registry, we want to be able to build up like a
buffer.
A buffer.
Yeah. So
again, or more.
So I guess kind of how we handle it, I mean, maybe we don't handle it exactly like a business right now, but our idea is that we pay our mortgage and our expenses out of our personal account. So then the rent income goes into a separate business house account, and then that money just sits there. So that money is just a buffer. We're building up that buffer for when, a furnace goes out or the roof needs to be repaired next or all those things.
Oh, so you're not just going out and spending it. We're putting it into reserves so that you have money on hand when things do go wrong.
The goal is, well, again, it's full disclosure. I don't know if we're truly house hackers because the rent doesn't cover the full, well, it covers the mortgage, but not like the full taxes and all that stuff. Yeah. But our thought was we're trying to be conservative, like even with John helped us do this too. We kind of, or we've gone, this is how much we make, this is how much we bring home. We budgeted out all our expenses and savings that we think we want to do, and then our goal is to live off that. So then the rent, try to maximize like the income that's coming in from the rent. Like we say, don't touch it. We're not spending it. That's extra, and then that can be used to get to that 20% a lot quicker to pay off that PMI or down payment on the next house or something like that. You're
reserving the money for unexpected things, but then your first goal for any surplus is to get to that 20% down payment so that you don't have to pay the, $137 a month in PMI.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or
we have student loans. And so paying
you're
extra
also paying
towards
off
student loans. Yeah.
The goal with it was to try to have enough to take care of it, save it, use the house, let the house be the house, let us be us. And then when the time comes, hopefully, that account, this is an exaggeration, has like $30,000 in, and they're like, well, maybe we can put 10 down on the house and then get that new furnace, or now maybe we're ready to get a new place. Maybe it's time to get another rental. Like how much down payment we have that available to us.
Yeah.
What would the next step be? Would you consider in a year buying another duplex or another multifamily and starting the process over again?
I think our priorities are paying down student loans, getting the 20% down on our current mortgage, and then it'll be another rental property.
Yeah, I think that's the overall idea. How am I? 24? I'm still 24. In my mind, in all honesty, I think I would like to have one or two more before we're 30.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of our long-term goal, whether that works in our debt plan or not. I think that's our goal.
Yeah.
So I would make the argument here. I understand why you want to pay off PMI quickly, but I would make the argument that your goal was to be able to pay your mortgage and your expenses and get a little bit of cash flow. Now your mortgage part, which is about $748, is being covered by the rent income next door. So that's good. That means there's probably another $450 a month that is coming out of your pocket.
Yeah.
You're still achieving the goal of house hacking because you have that income coming in. You're paying a lot less. Even if you're paying $450 out of your own pocket, you're still paying a lot less than you would if you were renting. Right, $800 a month plus utilities and all that.
Yeah.
And then the other part is you're paying down principal as well. So even though you're paying $450, probably $50 to $100 of that is going toward paying down some of your principal.
Yeah.
So that's equity in your pocket. Now, I know the conservative thing to do is to pay off PMI as quickly as possible. But at $137, it's really, you're looking at $1,500 a year that you're paying extra for PMI. And that seems like a lot. Maybe if you were to not be so concerned with paying PMI, there's something called the velocity of money, okay? And that is like using the money you're making to get into the next investment, as long as it makes sense financially.
Yeah.
I know like a Dave Ramsey would say, well, pay off your loan, pay off the PMI, get that off your books. And I don't disagree with that, but I do think that the house hacking ethic and the investment ideology is get more.
Right.
It's like Monopoly, buy more houses because you're creating wealth that way. You're not necessarily creating wealth by paying off your PMI, but you are creating wealth by doing your next house hack.
I agree. And yes. I think that's probably been sort of my thought, or at least I've been having discussions with like John or Mark or adult or financial person I can kind of I can talk to about where's that line of like you said, like where debt versus trying to move your money to get you more wealth and all those things. Where do you make those decisions? And
it's a comfort level, and it depends on how conservative you are.
Exactly.
Your student loans, are they manageable? I mean, do you feel like you need to pay
large? But when I had to start paying off my loans a couple years ago, I did the standard 10-year payment. I didn't want to do any income based because I don't make a lot of money. I don't make too much money. So I didn't want to do any like income based where you're like doing like $40 a month and you're doing like, for like 50 years you're paying. I'm like, I'm going to do the full, like $600 payment every month.
Oh, so you're trying to pay it down as quickly
I'm trying to pay it down as soon as possible. And then how much, and then if I had extra, I try to throw a little extra on it just because I want to get it. I was trying to get that down as soon as possible.
Right. Yeah, I don't know necessarily that my advice about the PMI would apply to student loans because that's something I really don't.
Student loans is a different.
Yeah. It would depend on the interest rate you're paying.
There's a lot of weird stuff. Anyway, it's boring.
Yeah, and I do think, the advantage to house hacking also is that because we're paying less on, our house and our living, then we can pay more towards the student loans. Mm-hmm. So that was also attractive.
I've preached this since it's been brought to me to pretty much everyone I know who's our age, who is renting, or my family members. I've really preached this idea of house hacking to them because I think it makes a whole lot of sense. And the people who I was living with, there was a married couple and then two of my roommates. We were doing this whole multifamily duplex thing. We talked to them and, conversations and that stuff. And I can't claim this, like they didn't give us direct credit to this, but I think that we convinced them to go do it themselves and they went and got a duplex.
Oh, really?
A couple blocks down from us. They're real house hackers in some regard, but
what makes them real high? What's the difference?
That
what makes
they're
them
not
real?
paying they're not paying anything for where they're living.
Mm-hmm.
That
like it's actually 100% like paid for.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's when we first talked. That's what I thought the house hacking term meant. But like it's like just spreading that knowledge to people. Like, hey, you're young. This makes sense. Like, you can do it. I'm a very big advocate for sharing that news. And if you want to, which we'll probably talk about soon, deal with living with other people as well and being someone's landlord, then it's not
it's worth it.
Yeah.
It's worth.
So let's talk about that because you do have a neighbor that's attached to your unit. Is this a neighbor that you inherited or a resident that you inherited?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And what is it like, being a landlord?
It's tough. It's definitely tough because if you have, an issue or a discrepancy, which, there always are, you're seeing this person almost every day, hi, bye, coming, going, hi, hey, I have a problem. And you're like, dang it, I just want to get to work.
So how do you set those boundaries?
I guess in general, if it's, something that can be handled quickly, then you just do it. If it's something that's going to take longer, then you'll say, hey, we can talk about this later. We'll set up a time, shoot us an email.
I think we're still in training.
Yeah, we're definitely still in training.
How about when it comes to collecting rent? Are you good at collecting it on time?
No. So this is probably our one story from tough story from being renters. We bought the house and we inherited renters for both units. And I think
with our loan, we had to move in within a
60 days.
60 days. Within 60 days.
So we closed exactly 60 days from the end of the first lease.
Okay.
The upstairs unit's lease. So naturally, the person who had to move out were the upstairs residents. And from my experience,
our 2 months with them.
From my experience and being at Compass and dealing with residents, they were probably as perfect as you can possibly get. Pay the rent before it was due.
Yeah.
Pay the rent before it was due. Easily communicate. Hey, your window's broken. I need to get somebody in there. What's a good time for you guys? Hey, we'll be here around this time. Will that work? If that work, can I get a key or can I go let them in? Yeah, sure. We won't be there. You can let them in. Let the guy in. Fix the window. Everything was easy, cleaned up, left the place pretty much perfect for us to move in.
Yeah.
When we needed to move in, so they were great. And then we kept our lower resident. And the lower, also financially, the lower unit was making more rent. So also about $1,100.
So you have a tenant downstairs who's paying $1,100 a month.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're each 3 bedrooms.
That doesn't jive with the numbers then, because $1,100 a month would cover much more than your $748 mortgage.
Yeah, it does.
Right. It covers our mortgage, but not like taxes and insurance.
Our mortgage payment with United is all one, and it's about like the $1,300, and that includes the mortgage, includes all the taxes, the city, all that stuff in one payment.
So even at $1,200 to $1,300 for your mortgage, $1,100 of that is coming from your tenants downstairs.
Right.
So are you doing much better than you thought? Or
I mean, I think we're just very conservative about how we're handling this.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think if we consider water bill and maintenance and all that stuff, then we're still paying probably about $400 a month.
Are you paying the downstairs tenants electric and gas?
No.
So that's split. So you're paying water for the
water for the unit. $150 for 3 months.
Yeah.
So it's way under. So you're looking at $600 a year. Is that right?
Yeah, so $600.
So $50 a month. So I would make the argument that you guys are doing much better than you think. I mean, if you're getting $1,100, and water's almost negligible, $50 a month.
Yeah.
You're reserving money for maintenance.
Yeah.
You're not actually spending that money.
Yeah, it's true.
Not too many times.
So you're really like maybe $250, $300 out of your pocket a month.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's about what I think. About 3. My head, I say 3. Like $300 a month we pay to live.
You feel better about that?
Yeah.
And by the way, I think that's real house hacking. That's not half-ass house hacking. It's real house hacking. You've got your rent from downstairs paying the majority of your expenses.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do. That is happening, and that is going on.
Okay, so the downstairs, are they paying rent on time? How are you doing as landlords?
So I don't think we've ever got rent on time from the lower unit. I don't think ever.
Yeah. So, I don't know how you can talk about this. Yeah, so we got the house. We closed at like June 1st. So that was
getting rent.
Transition
that
period.
transition.
So, like, get it late. Fine. Then it happened.
So the next month, I think we got rent in like 2 parts. Like one, a check dated for like the 10th of the month, and then one that was like forward dated for the rest of the amount for like the 20th.
So it was a little, and then we're very new to this, and we really want this to be smooth. Like we want it to be smooth as possible. It's on the first, all that smooth. Like things happen. We want this to be smooth. So we're like maybe this isn't like the relationship we want, and it was hard to get in touch with our resident, things like that. It's like maybe when we just started this out, maybe this is not the sort of relationship we want to manage. We were just getting married. We were going away on our honeymoon.
You didn't have time to be chasing.
Well, we
Right.
don't have like this is not like what we wanted to be doing. This just getting back. Her job was going through like an audit, and so she was like at work all the time, and then like my work is changing, and it's like this is not kind of the thing like we want to be doing a lot of. So we're like, you know what, we're gonna do like the landlord thing, send you a 30-day notice. We actually sent it 45 days in advance because I wanted to give her plenty of time to find a place.
And the lease was ending.
The lease was ending.
We weren't going to renew the lease.
We weren't going to renew the lease. We weren't sending out letters. We just, so 45-day notice that we weren't going to renew your lease at the end of August 31st.
We got married August 20th.
We got married August 20th.
And we hadn't gotten rent.
Still hadn't got it yet. So
And
we're
so we- I
going
guess
to
we
get
thought-
married. We don't care about that anymore.
Yeah, we were like, whatever. Like, if she doesn't pay, then we'll have the security deposit, and we'll just say we'll call it a wash, and we'll start over. So we left and went on our honeymoon, and we were still on our honeymoon. We were in New Hampshire come September 1st, and so we had a friend check on the house to see if our tenant had moved out.
A couple of my friends at Compass, they went over there and checked occupancy check for us while we were away, sent us an email while we were in Boston, not out. And then so we then emailed the lawyer.
Start the court process. On our honeymoon.
Okay.
So
Yeah, so we came back from
The
our
honeymoon eviction.
Yes. We came back from our honeymoon, and I think within a week we were in court. The judge was really lenient towards the tenant.
Toward the tenant.
And so even though the judge
I
said
think it's
that,
going on right now, but
like our tenant really had no reason to retain possession, she gave our tenant a week to find a lawyer, and then she offered to come back and hear the case again. Our lawyer was like, well, if she's going to be really lenient, looks better if you make a deal with your tenant and have it.
Well, no, our resident came to us before we went to court and like, do you want to talk about this? I don't think we need to go to court. And then we said to her, well, we're here now. Let's go through the court. Let's see what happens. And then we can just talk about it afterwards. So the judge, like she said, you really don't have any legal reason to deny possession. They're not asking for the money you owe. We didn't ask for the money she owed us. We just we just want the place back. That's all we want. We had not received 2 months of rent, so that's $2,200 that we were out of our pocket that we were not asking for.
Yeah.
So we just said, we're trying to be as easy and smooth as possible in this. Like, we just want it back. Take that $2,200. Go find the next place that you need. Down payment.
Just get out, be out of our lives.
Just move. Our resident, she said, I just need time to move out. She was saying she wanted to move to Florida, get a different job. She didn't want to deal with the winters here, things of that nature. We wanted to be smooth. I'm going to give you as much time as you need. How much time do you need? She said, I need 6 months. And then we're like, okay.
6 months of not paying rent?
No, 6 months. Like, so that
Time.
our agreement was she would get 6 months to look for another place to live, to go to Florida, but that she had to pay rent by the 10th of every month. And if she didn't, we could file directly for a writ of eviction. We didn't have to go back through the court process.
We had to go pay for and do all that 30-day notice. It was just, this is the agreement. We both sides sign in front of the judge and together that we agree rent has to, it's due on the first.
Did she
has to be
have to come up with the $2,200?
Yeah,
it was contingent on that too. She had to bring to court the full amount. She didn't. but we still got it.
We're new at this.
I don't know.
Yeah, so
I don't know
what happened. Did you get your money?
We did. We ended up getting it. Just
all of it, just not at the court date.
Yeah.
And so you got your $2,200. Was she able to pay the rest of the rent on time for the next 6 months?
Yeah, she has.
Well, she's paid by the 10th, at least.
Okay.
Which is our cutoff day.
So she's back on track. She's paying.
Yes.
She's
Yeah.
paid up. She's paid the rent.
She's been on track.
And she's still there.
Yes.
Yeah, the move out date is set for March 1st.
Okay.
And also in the agreement was that if she didn't move out by March 1st, we could file directly for writ of eviction on March 2nd and not have to go back through the court system.
Okay.
So the deal was basically great on both sides. You got enough time. We were covered in case of rent, and we didn't have to go do this whole thing again and pay money to go to court. And you had the time that you chose for yourself that you needed to get a new place.
Yeah, luckily it seems to have worked out for you because you got your money, she got paid up. You can get rid of her immediately if she doesn't.
Right.
I thought the story was going to end very differently with tears and sadness, but
It's not over yet.
Yeah.
It's not over yet. The story is still ongoing.
What do you think you'll be able to rent out? It's a 3-bedroom, 1 bath?
Yeah.
What do you think you'll be able to rent that out for?
Where we're located, it's Lafayette and Pleasant, right on the edge of Heritage Hill. Wealthy and Franklin, between Wealthy and Franklin, the Mary free beds right down the way. So it's right down that kind of close to downtown location, 3-bedroom, things like that. 1,300, which would
so that'll cover your monthly payment then.
Yeah.
Huh?
That would be very nice.
What's the next step? Are you guys looking for another house hack to do?
In the near future, I believe so. I think we've gained a lot of experience in this, 8 months we've had it. I want to see how going through a city inspection goes, filling a vacancy. Once we get that under our belts, I think pretty much everything, the majority of the realm of landlording we would have accomplished in our time. And then I think that'll be easier for us to kind of make a decision of how soon or when the next step of our house hacking adventures will be. My goal would probably be get another duplex or multifamily type, but maybe a little cheaper. Or if, as you drop down in price, do you deal with more?
I would argue you deal with more. You deal with more problems, more issues.
More issues.
Yeah.
But again, another thing which made us more comfortable in doing this, I don't think we ever talked about that, was because the background that my job provides me in terms of knowledge of the business side, and everyone at Compass is willing to share their experience, talk to you through the problems and the resources with vendors or maintenance guys who are able to either teach you how to do something or help you out. We feel very secure in doing this.
Yeah,
that
we have a lot of support.
We have a lot of support, like a huge support system around us.
The RPOA has excellent classes. I mean, the things that you're dealing with on landlording, marketing and screening for tenants, which is what you'll be doing soon enough, evictions, that kind of thing. The RPOA has excellent courses on those subjects. So I would definitely encourage you to take advantage of those. Cameron, welcome back to the show. Since we recorded the episode that everyone just listened to, you actually had a physical eviction at your property. Why don't you tell us about that?
Gladly. Anyway, we scheduled the date. Court officer posted the door. I still hadn't heard from her. She's supposed to be out the 1st of May. That's the agreement we all came up with court. She wasn't out, so did the whole process. And then my phone got blown up from her calling me and texting me saying, what is this, all this stuff? And so I said, okay, I'll talk to her. And I said, okay, I'll give you a week. So it was the 15th. And then her random friend texted me and said she's moving into my place, give her more time. So I was like, okay, I'll give you another week. So anyway, week comes. It's the day. She hasn't moved out. So then court officer shows up. First, we have the trash out guys and myself.
That's right. When you say trash out guy, you mean the guy who brings all of her stuff out of the house to the curb?
Yeah. So I'm upstairs. I guess the start of this is probably the most interesting part. So Emily's I'm gonna overstate it a little bit, but she was a wreck. She was stressed out and nervous about and so okay, you need to stay upstairs because I can't do you and then go downstairs and do this at the same time. So I need to be able to focus. So she's like, okay, I'll stay up here. So I went downstairs, met with them, and it was the court officer and 2 of the guys to move out her things or help move out the things, and I was there too, obviously. So they knock on the door. this unauthorized occupant comes to the door. I was like, hello? And I'm like, and then the court officer was like, yeah, we're here to do this. We got to do this. First, she tried to be calm, and she was like, I don't know what this is about. You know, the actual resident, she wasn't home. She went to work that day. Assuming she didn't think this was going to happen or this was a real thing. I'm not really sure. But then, so then she's like, well, she's not here right now. And she's like, I'm not aware of any of this. And it's like, you can't come in. And the guy's like, well, we can come in and do this. And then she said something like, well, he accepted her rent. I was like, I didn't even accept any rent. I didn't. So the court officer says, well, this is happening right now. Turns into she's completely aware of the situation, and she starts yelling at me like, how could you do this? How could you, like, you evict this person? You're like a terrible human being, like verbal, some swear words. So like I'm getting it. I'm like, this is a great start to my day. So that was fun. And then so he was like, okay, you guys stay out here. I'm gonna go in first. And so he said he's going in and he's checking. I don't know. He has to take pictures, before and after pictures or something like that. You know, washer and dryer that was in the entryway. You got like baskets of like fruit. So everything, it was like someone's house. Like you weren't, nothing was packed up. So anyway, I go upstairs and then I come back down and I walk in. And then, like, I see the court officer holding this large rifle, you know? And I'm like, whoa, like, I was like, did this escalate? Like, between, like, the 5 minutes I went upstairs and came back down? And I'm like, what's going on? He's like, oh, no, I just found weapons. I'm like, oh, okay. I was like, oh, you want me? He's like, well, don't go into this room. Don't go into this room because they said there's more. I'm like, more? Like, and this, our resident was an elderly woman or whatever. So it was just surprising to find out that she had so many guns in her house. I was like, goodness me, I didn't know this was going on downstairs. I didn't care. It was not a big deal to me. It was just surprising, a little bit shocking. And then, I guess, like I said, there's a little high stress in this situation. So I'm like, where are these, like, after halfway through it and I'm moving these people's stuff, I'm like, and you know, people are yelling at me. No one's happy with me.
At this point, Cameron, these are unauthorized tenants that you're dealing with. Was the authorized tenant even there? Did she come back?
She did not show up until about maybe an hour left, and we had probably the kitchen left to go, or a room and a kitchen left, and she showed up. And first we were piling all our stuff outside my house, and it was stacked all the way in the front lawn and all the way along the side. It was so much stuff. And then she finally showed up. Surprisingly enough, she didn't say much to me, which I was shocked. I guess she kind of assumed she knew this was coming and it wasn't like a surprise to her. Or the only thing she said to me was, I want my check. And she was talking about the check she threw in my mailbox the day after the court officer posted the door. I was like, your check's coming in the mail and it's voided out. I didn't cash it. So yeah, she showed up, and then like at 20 minutes after she showed up, a giant moving truck showed up. So basically I helped move her out. I probably made the move out a little easier for the move out guys because they just pulled it from the curb into the truck.
So how did that make you feel that day, to be causing all that disruption with these unauthorized tenants and to be actually physically evicting this woman?
It was, I would say, it's not something that I would like to do often. Towards the end, it got simpler, but the beginning was pretty high. Like, it was like, oh, that wasn't that fun. I don't want to do this. I thought to myself, like, I tried my best to avoid this moment. As much as you can be lenient and you know, open or kind of give a little rope to people, when you're a landlord or owner or however that works, you can only go to a certain point, then you are putting like yourself or your business or whatever at risk or at jeopardy, you know, or in this case, me and my wife, Emily. I guess the positive part about it, and after it was over and, you know, everyone was gone and the house's locks were changed, everything was locked up, there was a sense of getting our place back and maybe having your home kind of turn into a home again. Because with the whole owner-occupied thing, and when that relationship is not as positive as it could be, as it should be, or as simple as it should be, I feel like home's supposed to be that place for you where you get away from work or stress. You go and be a relief. But home with that situation was a little like the 2-minute walk from my car to the door. I walk slow, so that's how long it takes. Mm-hmm. But the 2-minute walk from my car to the door would be like a stressful moment until I got in the house and got upstairs. And it's like probably a day or so after like the eviction, you just realized there was a calm and peace, and it was very relaxing.
Yeah. So where is it now? Have you fixed it up? Do you have a new tenant in there yet?
We have fixed it up, and we are putting it on the market. So we did the city work, we did our own work, new paint, new carpets, put in new entryway, tore out the cabinets and the kitchen, put all new cabinets and faucets, sinks in the kitchen and the bathroom, and then got brand new windows in the entire place.
And what were you getting for rent, and what will you be getting?
It was at $1,100. I think I'm being a little ambitious by thinking I want to start when it gets on the market at $1,250.
Good for you, Cameron. It sounds like it was a difficult experience, but you had a very necessary experience to go through. Thanks for coming back to share that experience with us.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for taking your time and let me talk.
You've been listening to the Rental Property Owner and Real Estate Investor Podcast, brought to you by the Rental Property Owner Association. You can find out more at rpoaonline.org. If you enjoyed this podcast, please go to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and review.